I don't believe in dominating. I believe in teaching. I don't believe in dominating anybody. You know, when I was young, I had to grow up rough. Nobody would give me any money. My parents never gave me any money, you know, so I had to be creative. So what I used to do, because I used to live next to the Arsenal, anybody who parked in my road had to give me half a crown. Or in those days, that's how the money was. It was 224 pennies in a pound in the old days. It was 12 pennies into a shilling, which is 5p today, right? So half a crown was a lot of money in those days. And I used to make about 2-3 quid. Right? Now, a kid with 2 or 3 pounds, the wages were £7, £5 a week. So I was getting like half a person's wages in one day. And I was 6 years old. You think I don't know this? You have to understand my situation. And then I had to protect my turf in case other people wanted to do what I was doing. So I created a game. And from the game, you becoming the hooligans of Finsbury Park. You know, it was like crazy. There was factories, industrial place there, and we knew how to get in there. You know, it must have been cheap. We were young kids, we were 7, 8 years old. And we used to manage to get in there, you know, nick a few pens, nick a bit of ink, bit of this, that, and the other. And then we'd hightail it out. But we used to sell all the stuff that we used to get at school. And yeah, I won't go any further because it's ridiculous. Because I became like wanted by Woolworth. You know, they caught my mate, Roberto Belleggi, Italian boy. We used to call him Spaghetti. And they caught him in Woolworth trying to steal some stuff, you know. But they really wanted me because they couldn't catch me. I was crazy in those days. But you know, you have to go through these levels in life to say, all right, you've done it, end of, and move up. You know, as you was in school, you know, you went to school, you know, we became skinheads. In those days, everybody had to be a skinhead. If you didn't, you was picked on. Anyway, I enjoyed it, you know, because basically we had Ben Sherman shirts, Brutus shirts, Crombie's, nice coats in those days, stay pressed trousers, Dr. Martin boots. And we had our look, you know, it was good. And there was music that went with it, you know, reggae. It was mostly reggae because skinheads love reggae. It's crazy. Then I went to college, became a hippie. From a very early age, I got about a lot of things. I knew that doctors didn't know as much as they make out they know, right? Because my uncle, he had a problem. He went from one doctor to another doctor to another doctor. They kept giving him pills, pills, pills. Everybody, pill culture. Yeah, and in the end, the pills killed him. This is a real story. My uncle died at a very early age because he had a severe headaches, things like this. So he went to one doctor, to another doctor, and in the end, they didn't know what they were talking about. In the end, they killed him. That's when I learned stay away from pharmaceuticals. That's why I became a herbalist, because of these facts that I had to endure, you know, as I was growing up. And I've seen my friends, they've got Parkinson's disease, they've got Alzheimer's disease, they've got like blood problems, their blood doesn't go. All these things can be answered in herbs. All these things. You know, my love is to go down to the marshes on the River Lee on spring and pick out the herbs that I want to create medicines for my friends. The only reason why I'm an herbalist is because my friends suffer. One of them and his mum had humongous varicose veins. These were like painful. you know. And so I decided to do some research. And I heard that the Turks, actually the Ottomans, they used to watch the horses eat horse chestnuts. Why eat the, not the, the sweet chestnuts, the horse chestnut. It's bitter. You can eat it, but you've got to wash the tannerines out of it. The tannin is quite bitter. So you wash it and they make a bread out of it. But they understood one thing: when the horse ate horse chestnut, that's why they call it horse chestnuts. The horse chews it and spits it on his leg after he's been running. So they started using it on their body, and it gets rid of varicose veins. This is it's not an extraction; it's a tea tree. Basically, it's where you mix alcohol with the subject, which is horse chestnuts, and basically you make it a thickener. In other words, I use seaweed, natural thickeners. I don't use any animal products or anything like that. Beeswax is good up to a point, but you also got to remember that you're dealing with alcohol, so you can't be too strong, the alcohol, because it becomes flammable. So you have to reduce the alcohol of it. So you mix it up with something which is nice, lavender or water, distilled water. It has to be sterilized because you're dealing with, you're trying to create a longer life for these things, And 6 treatments, it worked. Within 6 treatments, the varicose veins we've done with this men are really outstanding varicose veins. You could see them coming out the skin. Gone. Just a little mark where they were. So I was quite pleased with that one. The other one I've been trying to do now is comfrey. Now I've used comfrey in the allotment world, and I got first prize in the allotment world, right? Due to the comfrey, because I never used to buy fertilizer. I don't spray my stuff. I hate it, and it's chemicals I don't use. I use natural products. So I discovered that comfrey helps bones heal twice the speed as it would in normal life. It takes 2 weeks for your bones to if you're young and viral, within 2 weeks your bone will heal, right? You'll still be sore, but your bone itself will heal. The muscles around it are stressed, but with this comfrey, it takes half the time. But the comfrey, I've always known it as a manure. Then I read up, started sussing it out, starting to do some research on it. And it's actually the Chinese have been using it for thousands of years for bone healing. And most of this stuff comes from the East, but the pharmaceuticals, they keep them down. They don't want you to know. If you say you've got a cure for cancer, which I have in many cases, because, I can go on for hours, but as an example, cancer. If you've got a drug that can cure, they'll take you off the air and probably sue you. Why? Because the pharmaceuticals is a multi-zillion pound company and they don't want you to take their money away, basically. It was always, I got that from my mum's side and my grandfather, because they're my real teachers. Now I read up that dogs can take cannabis resin on. So I tried my best to save my dog. I created this stuff because I loved my dog. Right? And the unfortunate thing is, as soon as I made it, the next day he died. But because I had to learn, because of my dog, I've helped so many people. Because, the first thing cannabis resin does, it sorts out skin cancer. It's well known for that. As soon as you put it on your skin, within a month, if you've got a mole that's, one of those weird ones, it's red around the edges, that's a cancer cell. You put that on there, within a month, it's gone. So I don't know. The first plant that ever grew on this planet, it's got to be mushroom, because they are the farmers and creators of everything. Because they're the only ones that can eat rock and turn the rock into earth. Matrix for plants, the matrix for trees, matrix for bacteria. When we came out of the sea, we came onto this planet from the sea onto the land. It was fertile, it's covered with gigantic mushrooms and trees and shrubs. Did God come from mushrooms? Question. Answer. More than likely. Because they found fossils of mushrooms bigger than trees. The earliest tree that was ever on this planet, it was a tree called Ginkgo biloba. The leaves look like brains. What does it do? I'll tell you what it does. It increases the blood flow to your brain. That's what Ginkgo biloba does, right? To me, when I first started doing these trips, I was looking at it from a shaman point of view. And I was getting a fantastic group of trips from taking psilocybin. It's hard to explain, but what I saw was enlightenment. Whatever subject that you were thinking about, you would see the answer. It would come to you straight away, as if it was meant to be there. The other thing I got from it was like, there was one time when I took a trip, and this is like a continuum, one trip after the other. It was unbelievable. I couldn't wait to take another trip. But obviously you can't do this on a regular basis because it's such a powerful thing. There's some mushrooms out there will give you a good slapping. I'm telling you. So you have to treat them with respect. You know, there's no. Basically, you have if they. I met people that were like gods. I'm telling you, it's kind of weird, but that's a life-changing experience. What you was asking me earlier on. It teaches you. And your job is to shut up and listen. You don't make out you know everything, because you don't know nothing. You know, and these things, these terrestrial images that were going into my mind, was basically giving me lessons on how to be a human. Diogenes, do you remember the stories of Diogenes? I think I've mentioned it to you before. Diogenes was a guy who used to go around with a candle. People used to say to him, "What do you do?" He says, broad daylight, and he's got a candle and he's looking around. And he says, they asked him, "What are you doing?" He says, "Well, I'm just looking for a human being." You know, someone who's a natural person that I can't find. So they all thought he was mad. Right? But he was also a mathematician. He also was a philosopher. And Alexander the Great heard of him. Right? And he really liked his teaching. So he went up to find this guy, and he found him. He was working out some mathematical problem in the sand. And Alexander the Great says to him, "Look, I've heard so much about you. You've helped us so many times. Look, whatever you want is yours." And he said to him, "You just step aside because you're blocking the light and I can't see what I'm doing on the ground." That was his answer. You know, this is human beings, you know. And sometimes you get dreams. You know, you might take some mushroom one day and you come out of it. But all of a sudden, you have a dream and you're back there, even without taking the mushrooms. It's kind of weird, but it lasts for quite a long time. And these flickers of thoughts that you have, it helps you improve your brain, because you end up looking and thinking in a far more deeper way. You know, it's, for instance, now I never answer a question unless I've looked at it from 4 different angles. So I'm looking at it from my point of view, I'm looking at it from his point of view, and I'm also looking at it from his point of view, and so on. Now, all these point of views is to do with those particular individuals, what they're going to benefit out. But if you look at it from a 4-way point of view, then you can analyze the question properly for good, not just your way, his way, and her way, shall we just say. This is understanding. It's a way of understanding something in a more thorough way. It's kind of weird, but I always look forward to the next trip when it comes to mushrooms. I'm a hunter of mushrooms. I've always been a hunter of mushrooms. I've been picking mushrooms for 50 odd years, and I love all the ones that you can eat. But there are so far over 120 different species of psilocybin that are hallucinative, and their benefits are unbelievable, because basically the neurons in your brain and the psilocybin, the way their DNA is connected, fits your brain like a key in a lock. They were always there, and they were always being used. For that to have happened in your brain, the connection we have with psilocybin goes back thousands and thousands of years. This is why I say shamans started this off. And religion, did it come from mushrooms? Because psilocybin is a very spiritual medicine. I would call it a medicine. It's basically what it is, because they're using it now on those poor people that have problems with their brains. People that suffer from paranoia, people that suffer from intimidation, people that there's something missing, the chemicals are not working, firing properly, so they can't think straight, or there's some blockage in their brain or something like that. They're using psilocybin today, controlled measures, for these poor, simple people there. And before that, we used to say it's not for the weak-minded. Now everything's reversed, because they're treating people with weak minds through use of psilocybin. My grandfather used to go out, or my grandfather, called him Bapu, grandpa. In Greek is Bapu. He used to get the elastic on, the tire in a tube of a vehicle, blow it out, and he used to put olive oil in there. Now, the water itself is a magnifier, but with the oil, it really magnifies. And you can see all the fish, the megala, the small ones, big ones, everything so clearly, because it's magnified. I started playing guitar. To learn to play an instrument, it takes 15 minutes a day. 15 minutes, that's all it takes. 15 minutes a day basically is to exercise your fingers. If you can keep a shape, because it's basically shapes. When you play guitar, it's shapes. The A minor, the A major, your D minor, and all these are all shapes your fingers make. If you practice this 15 minutes a day, within 6 months, you're going to be playing the guitar. Not fantastic, but you'll be playing something. When my friend Sugar Zacharias, Greek fella, was a friend of my mate Andy Adamu, who's a doctor, general practitioner, he used to play the guitar, and he never really excited me or anything like that in encouraging me, because I learned to play the guitar when I was 55. I was divorced, I had that much to do, so I just decided to play the guitar. But my son, I showed him a few chords on the piano, and I took him to a brilliant teacher. And from there, it was that competition between me and my son. You know, who's going to end up playing proper? Anyway, I learnt the guitar, and Mario learnt to play the piano. He got 7th level. He was doing Tchaikovsky. He was doing kinds of things. Amazing. If he's on the YouTube, all you got to do is look up for Mario Apostolides. You'll get him. He's an amazing pianist. Anyway, he decided to play the guitar. So off he went to learn the guitar. Now I'm thinking I need to learn another instrument because I need to keep up the competition between my ego is a bad thing. But if you use it correctly to learn, because if you don't get excited, right, you're not going to learn, right? So if you look at a kid where he plays, you know, that's when he's learning. When a kid's, you know, if you bombard a kid with questions, you ain't going to learn nothing. You know, especially if you're shouting or whatever. Everything has its place. When I heard that my friend Zachariah, right, was going to play the harmonica, my blood boiled. It was crazy. I mean, I was burning up inside. The next day, I went and bought a set of harmonicas. I took it to boys' night where I was playing guitar, and they said to me, "Blimey, you could play the harmonica." Because I knew from when I was younger, and nobody told me that I could play. So imagine if they told me then I could play when I was 17, when all that music was happening in London. I'd have been up there in the harmonica world, put it that way. Because it's a natural thing. For me, it was natural. No one ever taught me. Like in a guitar, I had a guitar lesson, you know, a couple of guitar lessons, and that was it, you know, to learn where all the notes was and how to use the frets, things like this. But with harmonica, it's me, nothing else. No knowledge from anybody or anything. It's pure feeling. You know, we see spaceships, yeah? When I was here 20 years ago, and I was in Regalia, I was doing a job down there. I was doing some painting job when I was younger then. And out in the sea, I noticed there was a light with multicolored lights coming towards the shore. At first, I thought to myself, blimey, you know, this is a spaceship. This thing was hovering over the British base, right? But when it was out in the sea, it was like a marble, really small thing like this. By the time it came to the shore, it was like that, right? And it was mauve, had a yellowy light on the outside, had wine color like a cerise, with lightning bolts going inside. It was a proper spaceship, man. And it was hovering above the British base. No Phantoms came out, no Eurofighters came out, nothing. This is where I thought to myself, I started looking at this guy called Stephen Greer. Now, I've been following Stephen Greer for a long time, but I've always sort of like, he's a bit militant, you know, he's a doctor, he's got his degree in doctoring, he's a doctor as well. But he reckons, and I'm beginning to believe now, because if you've got a British base and you've got a spaceship and you do nothing, what does it tell you? That they already know, you know, these things are happening. Or are they involved with all these spaceships? Now, Stephen Greer believes that we've already got bases on the moon, we're already on Mars, and we have the technology to take ET home. Maybe that's a bit far-fetched, but in 1951, they shot down 3 spaceships using the Nikola Tesla weapon. They reversed engineered it. That's when all these... Listen, the technology the Americans have got is amazing. And why nobody's allowed to talk about spaceships and all this sort of thing? Well, you can think to yourself, okay, they're trying to stop you from... But they're out there. Stop you from talking about it, but they're out there. Now, for me, they're trying to condition us You know, they're trying to, it's like watching a movie so many times, or propaganda. They condition you. This is the same sort of thing. So they are conditioning us to believe there's aliens out there and we're doing absolutely nothing about them. Unless they're building them themselves.